Did you know? Now I want you to hear me when I say this. Being naked is a complete illusion. I just want you to know that there is no such thing as being naked. Now, before you tune me out, I want you to hear me out on this. In today's video, we're going to talk about, number one, why nakedness is actually a made-up concept, totally an illusion. And then we're also going to talk about the two types of quote-unquote clothing that we all, you watching this video, need to learn how to take off for your own well-being, for the well-being of your place in this world, and also for the well-being of the planet. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jamal Javanji. I'm a life coach by profession. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Free to Love Coaching Solutions, LLC. I'm the author of the Amazon best-selling book called Living for a Living. I'm super happy to have this conversation with you. And I really want you to tune in here today. Isn't it interesting that human beings, now I want you to think about this, right? Let's put on our curiosity caps, right? This is not a video about advocating everybody becoming nudist or anything like that. And that's not what I'm saying here. I want you to really listen a little bit deeper. The concept of nudity or being naked is an illusion, right? That it's a metaphor. It's actually it's a really profound human metaphor that we need to look at because there's something very important that all of us are grappling with. And as a result of this concept of this illusion of being naked, we've actually created a couple of types of clothing that have not served us well. And so I'm going to advocate that we take off these clothing. We take off these two types of clothing that are really preventing us or holding us back in the world. Okay, so you want to stick with this video to the end. Okay, so let me just kind of unpack a little bit about why nudity or nakedness is a weird concept, right? It really doesn't have any basis in reality, okay? Now I want you to think about all living things that exist. Trees to animals, right? Birds, dogs, cows, you name it. Do we assign the concept of nakedness to any other living entity on the planet? Have you ever seen a naked dog? No, right? No. Actually, it's kind of funny when you see a dog with clothes on. Right? Because we don't really associate dogs with being naked. You've never seen a naked tree. You've never seen a naked bird. Obviously, these are pretty ridiculous examples I'm giving. But I'm using these examples to actually communicate a very important point. That we don't project onto any other living thing in existence the concept of being naked. But human beings, we carry this, right? We carry this sense of being naked, right? Obviously, in a very physical sense, that's why we wear clothes. We wear clothes because underneath our clothes, we are all naked, right? But what does it mean to be naked? It means to be, right? It communicates this sense of I'm lacking something that needs to be covered up, right? So I want to propose something that you already know, right? Now, babies, when they're born, they're naked, right? We come into this world naked. Little children run around, they're completely naked. As a matter of fact, most kids don't want to be clothed. They have to be taught that over time. And again, I'm not against that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a metaphor for a deeper psychological construct that we as humans are all dealing with. I want to propose, and I want you to think about this. I want to propose to you that the concept of being naked is really just another word for the word shame. And I've talked about shame in a previous video, right? It's very important. If you haven't watched that video, there'll be a link to it in the show notes. I would encourage you to watch it. But another word for nakedness is simply shame. So when somebody feels naked, right? When you're in your truest, most basic essence, we feel like there's something shameful about that existence. So what humans do is they want to cover it up. Right? So in the very physical sense, this idea of being naked and then wearing clothes is a metaphor. I'm not against it. There's nothing wrong with wearing clothes. I'm wearing clothes right now, right? There's nothing wrong with wearing clothes. But it's a metaphor for something much deeper in the human condition. Does this make sense? Underneath the clothes, the question is, how do we view or understand ourself, right? How do we view or understand ourself? At the essence of who you are, is there something shameful about you? See, most human beings actually believe there is. I've never met a human being that at some level was not deeply ashamed of themselves. This is a tragedy, but this is what we're afflicted with, this deep sense of personal inadequacy, personal shame that we then try to cover up. So there's really two ways, okay? There's two ways that we as human beings try to cover up our quote unquote shame or nakedness, right? So the first form of clothing, if you want to use those words, is this, right? We have an outer persona. It's a persona, right? So the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, they actually came up, the ancient Greeks were the ones who developed the concept of plays and theater. And when they would put on productions or theater, they would wear a mask, right? And they would have these masquerades and these things that they would dress up into to portray the characters they were portraying on the stage. Well, the Greek word, the origin of the Greek word for this mask or this costume that they would wear in plays is actually where we get the English word persona or personality. Most people have a public personality. There's a persona that we want other people to see. And we work really hard. All humans do, right? This is what growing up, going to school, especially middle school, high school, the cliques, the clubs, all the things. We have a persona that we develop over time, depending on your environment, depending on your culture, depending on your family, depending on lots of different things, religious beliefs. And we work really hard at creating an external persona that we want people to view us through. It's the costume we wear for the world. Everybody has one. It's a form of clothing that we wear. Is there anything wrong with it? No. I have one. You have one watching this video. But most people are not aware at a conscious level. They might be aware of this at a deeper level. Most people are not aware that that persona, that form of clothing that they wear out in public to the world is not actually who they are. It's not who they are. But most people are identified with that persona. And this is why so much emphasis goes into, the superficial things of life, right? The cosmetic surgeries, the Botox, all the stuff that we do. Again, is there anything wrong with it? No. But it's fake. It's not real. It's actually not who you are. But because we put so much emphasis in perfecting this external persona, because we're so deeply ashamed of ourselves at the naked level, quote, naked level, we really, really, really want this persona to look and be a certain way so that we can hide our shame from the world. Again, most of this is unconscious. And the problem with identifying with that external persona is it keeps you unconscious. I want you to hear this. This is very important. The problem with identifying with this external persona is that it keeps us unconscious to the truth of who we are below the persona. So here's my encouragement to all of us today watching this video, is that we begin to take stock of the public clothing that we really care about as far as how we are viewed or seen in the world. What are the ways that you care? Become conscious of this. For you watching this video, what are the things that you really want people to think about you? What are the things that you want people to see in you, notice about you, appreciate about you? Is there anything wrong with that? No, no judgment here. But I want you to become conscious of how do you want people to perceive you? Because that is your external clothing or persona. It's not you. It's not the truth of who you are. It's just how you want people to perceive you. The more conscious we can get of that, the more we can start to shed those layers, right? Because by the way, if you're going to find out the truth of who you are, and by the way, I would recommend that you get really curious about who you are below the clothing, underneath the clothing. It's going to be really important for you to have curiosity about what is your truth. Who are you below the clothes? It's going to be really important for you to want to see the clothing that you're wearing for the world so that you can begin to go beyond it. And one of the ways we do that is by getting conscious of, how do I want people to perceive me? Because that is not you. It's just the way it's the clothing you're wearing to cover your nakedness and shame. Now, it's different if you put that clothing on to accomplish a purpose. Like you wear clothes to go out in public, that's great, right? You don't walk outside the house, because in our society, we don't allow people to be naked, right? So we wear clothes. But as long as you realize that you are not the clothes. Now, I'm not talking about physical clothes, even though that's just a metaphor. As long as you realize you're not the persona you're putting on for the world, no problem. It's only when we get identified, which most people are, identified with those clothes, that they lose consciousness of who they are. Does this make sense? Super important. So that's the first layer of clothing I am proposing that we shed. Number 2, there's another layer of clothing. It's kind of like our underwear. Let's use that analogy, right? So underneath our clothes, we wear underwear, right? You know what that is. I don't even have to go into detail. And underwear is the thing. It's the clothing that most people don't see, but it's still clothing. It's on underneath your clothes. Now, who gets to see you in your underwear? If I can use that analogy, right? It's the people closer to you. Maybe it's your spouse, right? It's the people who you are very close with that maybe live in your house with you, right? They might see you in your underwear. The underwear is the metaphor for the persona that we allow our close loved ones and family to see. Not the public, but our close family and friends. That's the persona we allow them to see. But you know where I'm going with this, right? That persona that you let your spouse see, that you let your maybe close friends and family see, or maybe they see you in that quote unquote swimwear or underwear, it's also an illusion as well. It's not the truth of who you are. Most people, a lot of people, greatly confuse that those underclothing with being the truth. It's my naked self. I've actually heard people refer to themselves as, I'm kind of naked, but they're really in their underwear. You're not naked then. You still have clothing on. But most people are so identified with that being a vulnerable identity that they have so identified with it. But it's still an unconsciousness to even what's below that. And as a life coach, I work with lots of people. And it would surprise you, the majority of people that I work with, if I'm being completely honest, and we're all here, the majority of people have never met themselves below those 2 layers of clothing. The external clothing and then the underclothing, right? The persona they present to the world and then the persona they present at home with their family. Those are the only 2 layers that most people really even know about. Most people are very uncomfortable to go beyond those 2 layers of clothing, because when you shed those 2 layers of clothing, you're quote unquote naked. And most people are very uncomfortable in their nakedness. They don't want to be naked, even with themselves, with nobody around, because they feel tremendous shame. The majority of people have never met themselves beyond these 2 layers of clothing. And if they have experienced nakedness, they feel shame, and they really don't spend a lot of time in that state. They work on covering themselves up again, putting on the clothes so they don't experience nakedness. Now, I'm using a lot of these analogies of nakedness and clothing, but hopefully you see the deeper point here. My question for you, as you're watching this video, have you ever met yourself beyond those 2 layers? The external persona that you present to the world, the inner persona that you save for your loved ones. Those are 2. Have you met yourselves beyond even those 2 layers of clothing? Have you ever stood as a naked person? Quote unquote naked. There's no such thing as nakedness. It's just your truest, rawest, most intimate and vulnerable state. Have you ever just stood there in your nakedness and allowed yourself to feel what it's like to be you? Without the personas of productivity, of accomplishment out here to the world, without the persona of even being a little more relaxed in your underwear, quote unquote, at home with more of your comfortable family? Have you let yourself even go beyond that and to get very still and very present to the you that is absolutely just pure existence? Because if you haven't gotten to know that part of you, you will never be able to tap into the truth, the authenticity of who you are as a human being. And you'll never be able to discover the reason and the purpose for which you were created and exist in this world. Have you ever met a person who is fully authentic, who is operating in their power? Have you ever met a person who's operating in their truest sense of identity and being? Who isn't controlled by the opinions of other people. They just know who they are and they know what they're here in the world to do. Have you ever met a person like that? Because if you have met a person who has learned to love themselves in their quote unquote most naked form without the need for covering up their shame. Do you want to be that kind of a person that operates from the most purest, powerful, authentic truth of who you are? Do you want to be like that? Do you want to operate from that truth? Do you want to create your life from that most authentic, powerful reality? If the answer is yes, we're going to have to go beyond these two layers of clothing, the external persona and even the undergarments that we wear only for our loved ones. We'll have to go beyond even that to our most purest existence, our purest form of naked self. Now, in my work as a life coach, again, this is a metaphor. I'm not talking about public nudity. I'm not talking about anything like that. It's just a metaphor. But one of the things that we do in the coaching work is I help people. Now, this is just probably a very broad brush way to put this, but I help people meet themselves beyond the clothing. I help people get to know their truest, most authentic, most vulnerable, most naked self. The self that's not actually naked. The self that has no shame. When you lose shame, you have no concept of nakedness. It is impossible to feel naked when you have no shame. You feel whole. You feel embodied, empowered. Just like a dog doesn't feel naked, a plant doesn't feel naked, a tree doesn't feel naked, human beings can learn to not feel naked when they get rid of their shame. What would your life be like if you had no shame? How much more available, real, powerful, and creative could you be without shame? I want you to think about what your life could look like if you had no shame. Isn't that exciting? It's flat out exciting for me. It's the work I get to do as a life coach. If you'd like some more information about my signature life coaching system, which is called the Energy Acquisition System, it's a 12-week program. Here's some more information about that here.
I just wasn't sleeping anymore. I felt like I was stuck. I could not stay motivated, and it was hard to focus. I tried self-help books, therapy. I even took a vacation, and nothing helped. And then I found a personal coaching system that gave me back my life. Hi, Jamal.
What she discovered is the Energy Acquisition System developed by Jamal Javanji, a globally recognized coach featured on Fox Network, Newsmax TV, and an Amazon best-selling author with over 100 podcast episodes guiding listeners and transforming men and women worldwide.
My 90-day coaching system is for anyone looking for a renewed sense of vitality and well-being.
I haven't felt this alive in years. Jamal changed that.
Don't just wait for a change. Do something about it. Book your session with Jamal today.
Your breakthrough begins the moment you say, yes, I'm ready for change. Hit the button below and let's get started. So if any of that has sparked your interest, your attention, let's set up a Zoom call to talk more about who you are and what you're looking for, and I'd be more than happy to share the particulars of this program with you to see if it's a good fit. I'm curious, as you've listened to this conversation, what's one thing that has stood out to you? Maybe that has jarred your thinking in a certain way. Has there been anything that has come alive to you? Any thoughts? I'd love to hear what is sticking out to you from this video. What have you learned? What's your takeaway? Leave it in the comment section. So important. Love to hear from you. Comments make all the difference. Other people need to hear from you and hear where you're at in this process. Have you ever met yourself in your most naked, truest form? One of the easiest ways to give back to this channel is if you've enjoyed this video in any way, just hit the like button. I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss videos as they come out. It really helps get this channel and this content out to more people. Okay? I look forward to hearing from you in the comment section, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.